Hi, welcome to episode 303 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffyk on Ravelry, Fluffykira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop where I sell my handspun yarns and patterns, and that is the Corner of Knit and Tea. And we also do have a Ravelry group, though it is a little quiet right now. Hi, how are you? I hope that you are doing well. It is Monday, November, I didn't look at the date today, 8th, I believe. And, excuse me, I hope that you are doing well, that you have had a good weekend, and that your week is off to a good start. Things are somewhat calmer here in the United States after the election decision over the weekend, the election verdict, I guess. We voted last Tuesday, and on Saturday, our new president was announced. So that is making a lot of us feel a little more relaxed and have a little bit more hope for the future. So, this is a knitting show, not a political one though, so I will tell you that I had a pretty good weekend. The weather here just outside Kansas City in Kansas has been beautiful for the last week or two. I believe it's coming to an end because today it is a little bit dreary and gray and the humidity is back and we know that the rain is rolling in, but for the last few weeks it has been in the 60s and 70s, which is unheard of in November. On Friday, my husband and I went out and he played disc golf and I walked the course with him. And for the last week, at least, we have had the windows open in the house. And so it is just breezy and lovely. And actually, it's still warm today. It's about 70 degrees. But we can just feel that the air is much moister. And I believe it's going to rain on Wednesday or Thursday. So, to start out, I thought I would answer another one of the questions from episode 300. I only have a few more of these to go, but since each of them takes a little time, I've just been dividing them up. And one of the questions that I received was how to work with a tech editor and what advice I would have. So, let's talk about what a tech editor does. I do tech edit. Kind of on the side as a consulting business. A tech editor is a person who checks patterns, knit or crochet, and ensures their accuracy. I guess I could also say sewing and otherwise, but specific to this case, I actually only am a knit pattern tech editor, but there are crochet pattern tech editors as well. A tech editor checks your pattern from top to bottom. They look to make sure that your formatting is consistent, that all of your directions work, that all of your math and stitch counts work. Excuse me. They make suggestions on your language and where instructions could be clearer. Tech editors also can help with a variety of things, including helping you to put together a style guide that is how you want your patterns to read regularly, everything from your abbreviations to formatting and more. Tech editors can help you put together charts or schematics. They can help you with pattern layout as well. That is not something that I do. So there are a variety of functions of tech editors, and the primary benefit of a tech editor as opposed to a test knitter is that when you engage a tech editor and you pay a tech editor, they are trained to look at your pattern and to spot errors. They are going to read your pattern critically and make notes of where they think there might be errors or where things could be clearer so that your knitters will be able to produce, or crocheters will be able to reproduce the pattern successfully as a project of their own. So it just kind of depends where you fall on the spectrum. Test knitters are great, but they are not necessarily always trained to look for errors. And the other thing that happens is even you as a knitter or a crafter may read a pattern, spot an error, and your brain may sort of correct what that should be because you know what you're doing. And so a tech editor is really sort of a person who spends a lot of time looking for things and not just skimming through things and trying to let their brains fill in the rest. So that is what a tech editor is. The next question is, where do you find one? There are lots of places you can find one. There is a forum for designers on Ravelry, which also includes quite a bit of reference to tech editors, and there is a thread where tech editors can advertise their services. When you purchase patterns or read magazines, they often list the tech editor in those places. I would say in single PDF patterns, it's probably a 50-50 whether or not they credit their tech editor. In magazines, there are always tech editors credited, or other publications. So you can get names from there. You can Google tech editors. The other place that I can suggest you go is called the Tech Editors Hub, and that can be found at thetecheditors.hub.com. That is a website created by Jolie Kelly, who is the person who actually taught me to tech edit. She runs tech editing and grading courses these days. But she has on the Tech Editor Hub a list of people who have asked to be listed with her. They're people who have gone through her classes. And it is basically an Excel spreadsheet list of people who are tech editors. It has their contact information and their websites, and it also has information about what kinds of things they tech edit. So every tech editor has certain things that they enjoy doing or want to do more of, and things that they don't consider themselves as strong at. Like I said, I don't tech edit crochet patterns because even though I can crochet a little bit, it is not a hobby that I consider myself fluent in enough to really be able to give it a critical eye. Some people specialize in garments, some people specialize in accessories or baby knits or toys. So that is a great resource where you can find a tech editor that would match your project. So that's how to find one. How do you work with one? Well, that kind of depends on the tech editor and you, because every relationship is unique. So, and I should have prefaced this whole discussion by stating that all of this is from my point of view as a tech editor and how I work with clients and how I found my own tech editors and those kinds of things. So if you have other questions, you're welcome to ask me, but of course beware that other people may work differently. In general, when I approach a tech editor, it's about starting a conversation with them. It's about asking them, do they have availability? Are they taking new clients? Do they work with patterns of your type? For instance, if you're producing accessory patterns, do they tech edit accessory patterns? Do they have some availability in their schedule? You can start this conversation with a tech editor at any time, preferably before you need one, but also if you have a pattern that you are ready to have tech edited, you can discuss that with them. Some tech editors will want to look at your pattern in advance to give you an estimate. I don't generally give estimates at this point. My policies are, and I always put this up front in an email to a new person, I tell them my rate. I tell them I happen to charge for 1 hour minimum, and then I charge in quarter-hour increments thereafter. And if they ask for an estimate, I will look at their pattern and tell them roughly what I think it should be. There are so many, it runs the gamut of estimates in terms of how much time it will take someone to check your pattern. If you were talking a simple accessory pattern, I would say 1 to 2 hours. That holds true also for like a simple shawl. The more complicated you get, the more complicated tech editing gets. If you're asking someone to tech edit a garment in multiple sizes, you're looking at probably 2 to 4 hours there. It just kind of depends. That's also true if you have lots of charts, and particularly if you're asking your tech editor to look at the chart and compare it to the written directions to audit the two and make sure both are in sync. You can choose to have them do this or not have them do this depending on whether you, for instance, plug your chart into a piece of software and it spits back to you the written directions, so you may not have them choose to tech edit those. So again, it very much varies. The tech editor should give you an estimate of when they expect to complete the work. In my case, it is usually a couple of days to a week. I usually do not have a turnaround time longer than that. In terms of working with the tech editor and the programs they use, that is specific to the tech editor. I often edit in either Word documents or PDF format. The designer submits the pattern to me along with any supporting materials, which might be charts or schematics or other things that they would like me to note. You can also, if you have specific questions or areas you would like your tech editor to look at, you can note that in your request. And then what I do is I sit down and I go through the pattern, and I usually use either track changes or commenting to make suggestions where I feel that they are necessary, or also to correct errors. I also always do, unless it's a very simple accessory, for instance, like a cowl where the stitch count does not change at all, I always put together an Excel spreadsheet to work through all the numbers. And then what I tend to do is I highlight the areas that are problematic and send you both the spreadsheet and the pattern in return with notes about what I found and where I might have been in error or where there might be an error in the pattern. And then I continue to work with clients iteratively to finish the tech edit, which is to correct the errors, to review again, and basically when the client says we're done, then we're done, and then I send an invoice. So that is sort of kind of a brief snapshot of how working with a tech editor works. As I said, tech editors can help you build charts. They can help you build schematics. They can also give you some hints and tips on layout, and all of those services are available for some amount of fee. I will tell you that particularly on Jolie Kelly's list, that I said that is the Tech Editor Hub, you should be able to go to, most tech editors will have a website, and many tech editors will either have a portfolio of their work, comments from customers, references, etc. For instance, I have a pattern bundle on Ravelry that consists of all the patterns that I have tech edited. It is linked from my website, so for anyone who is looking to find out more about me, they can take a look at that bundle and see what kind of patterns I tech edit. So that is a little bit about tech editors, how they work, how you might find one. If you have other questions, please feel free to leave them below. If you are looking for a tech editor, I am accepting new clients and I would be delighted to work with you. If you are in need of something that is not in my skill set, I am also happy to refer you to someone else or let you know if I know of someone who specializes in what you're looking for. So 11 and 3/4 minutes in, let's start with the actual podcast. Today, I am drinking another tea from Bird and Blend. As you note, I tried them last week. This week, I am trying Peach Cobbler, which is made of a black tea, freeze-dried peach, pink cornflowers, and natural flavoring. And that is from Bird and Blend. And I am drinking that today in my sunflower mug by Jenny the Potter. It reminds me of Kansas because in the summer we have fields of sunflowers. That's delicious. I added just a touch of sugar for sweetness, and that is a good afternoon pick-me-up. It is about 2:30, 2:45 in the afternoon right now. I am recording earlier today because I didn't want to lose the light, particularly on such a gray day. So I do have to go back to work a little bit after this, and that shot of caffeine will definitely help me. So let's talk about what I have been working on. And of course, the name of the game is NaKniSweMo. I also have a NaKniSwe So let's talk about the one that's working well first. The first pattern that I'm going to talk about is Mayuga, and that is a sweater pattern from Joji Locatelli. It was originally designed in Malabrigo, and I believe it was Rios, and it is in Malabrigo book 6, which will be linked in the show notes. I am knitting it in Zen Yarn Garden Superfine DK, which is their squishy 100% merino superfine merino DK weight, and it is in the colorway Silver Moon, which is this great tonal silvery gray. Some parts of it tend more towards almost white or the finest silver, and some go for a slightly warmer gray. So you can see some of the variation in the skein, and you will be able to see the variation in the sweater as well. I am alternating skeins on this, and the two skeins were actually somewhat different. So I can see that it's subtly stripes. I don't know if it will show up on the monitor when I show you. So I have something that is very sweater looking like. This is a raglan sleeve cardigan. Okay, I don't think it shows up as stripy. Well, a little bit. I don't know that it shows up quite as stripy as I see it, but I think it will be fine. This cardigan has an all-over texture pattern that is really nice. It is called the elongated stitch. And again, this is a top-down raglan cardigan. I am knitting it in the size, I believe it's 39 1/4, which is a medium. That is what I have the yardage for, which is how I chose that. Basically, they send me yarn and I pick the largest size I can do with the yardage they have given me. And I am partway into the body. I am already working on some of the shaping. Oh yeah, here you can see that it stripes a little bit. I don't think it's quite that noticeable in person. I think the monitor is making it even more noticeable, but an argument for making sure that you are alternating your balls of yarn, because in certain places it is fairly evident. And it is about time for me to put in the next skein. This is the first 2 skeins, and I hope that the rest of the body will happen in a little bit less than 2 skeins, which will give me another 2.5 skeins to do the sleeves, and then there is a simple ribbed edging, that ribbed button bands and collar. So that is what I am doing. The pattern is going along swimmingly, and I am very pleased with this. It is a nice, not too difficult knit. There were charts that had to do with the elongated stitch pattern and working the increases in using the charts. So the top required a little bit more concentration, but now that I'm basically just knitting back and forth with just some simple waist shaping, this is coming along really, really nicely. And I can do 16 to 20 rows a night, which is great. So I expect that by the time I come to you again, I will have the body finished and will be working on the sleeves. So no complaints about this. The pattern is written clearly, and it is a great pattern. I'm really enjoying it. So this is a nice sweater, and it was originally done in a variegated Malabrigo colorway, and it looks absolutely beautiful. I think the stitch pattern also helps to account for pooling and kind of keep things looking very non-pooled, and kind of varying your color, but I think it's really nice. It's a really nice textured knit also in a straight color. So I think it can be done with either and looks beautiful either way. This will be a kit from Zen Yarn Garden when I finish knitting and we have photographs, so probably a month or 2 from now. So the plan is to finish this month for NaKniSweMo, and this will be my NaKniSweMo sweater. Let's talk about the other sweater that's in my project pile. It needs to be ripped, and I decided to wait and bring it to you today. So I decided to knit the Descent Pullover by Andrea Rangel. She also has a Descent cardigan, but this one is in fingering weight, and it is, as I said, a pullover. I am using a new to me yarn for this, which is Barrett Wool Co. Wisconsin Woolen Spun, which is a lovely woolen spun fingering weight in the colorways Wild Plum and Oats, and I have showed you these before. I still have these here. These are the first 2 balls. They are 450 yards to 100 grams, and that is because they are woolen spun, which means they are very, very lofty and lightweight. I have felt but not used Brooklyn Tweed Loft, and I imagine that they are somewhat similar. This is actually very soft, whereas I felt like Loft was a little bit more rustic, and I believe that this one has slightly more processing and plying than Loft. It is a 2-ply yarn, and so it pulls apart less easily. That said, it creates a nice lightweight garment. So the problem here is that I did not get gauge, and I did talk about that in my swatch last week, and I adjusted for that in terms of I cast on the smallest size of the sweater because I knew that my gauge was not exactly what the pattern called for, and I did the math and I thought that was going to be okay. What I didn't account for is that I worked on this week, and I think honestly I was worried about my gauge being too tight and my floats being too tight, and so I made a super conscious effort to keep everything nice and loose, and ultimately what happened was that I ended up with fewer stitches per inch than I thought I was going to, and so the sweater is way, way too large. The pattern calls for a gauge of 7 stitches per inch. I was getting approximately 6 stitches per inch in my gauge swatch, and now I am down to 5 or 5.5 stitches per inch. And if you ever wondered why gauge is so important, when you are knitting a colorwork yoked sweater and you have approximately 400 stitches in the round, the difference between 7 stitches per inch, 6 stitches per inch, and 5 stitches per inch is pretty hefty. So this is a beautiful colorwork sweater, and it is not going to work for me, so I am going to have to rip it out, but this is what I have. So as you can see, this yoke is entirely too large for me. The neck is really large. The patterning is really large. This is not even the entire yoke pattern. Technically, there are still 5 or 6 more rows to go. It is incredibly large and oversized, and even accounting for the sleeves and whatnot. The sweater itself is actually supposed supposed to be a fairly tailored fit. The color work is supposed to be a little bit at the top, almost looking like an oversized necklace or such, and then the rest of the sweater is a very slim line with slim sleeves. So I did think about whether or not I could continue to move forward with this, and whether or not I would want to have a sweater that was shaped a little bit more like I think of some of the oversized sweaters, like the ranunculus, or the one that comes to mind is the Tecumseh by Caitlin Hunter, only because that is a very definite sort of, well, I don't want to say shape because it's kind of oversized and shapeless, but it is a very dropped shoulder. The pattern is meant to be big and oversized, and that's not what this pattern should be, and it's not really what I want for this pattern. So I have decided that sadly I will be ripping all of this. I think I'm going to take one of those beautiful yoke photos, you know, where they put this is on a multiple needles so that I could try it on. Take one of those beautiful circular photos where I can see all the beautiful yoke work, and then I think I'm going to pull it out and call it quits on this one. I don't think I have it in me to reknit this one right now. I spent quite a few hours working on this week. This is probably between 12 and 15,000 stitches because it is fingering weight. And again, as I said, 400 stitches per round. And like I said, I just don't honestly have it in me to pick it up and do it again right now. Whether or not I will come back to the sweater pattern, I don't know. I will definitely use the yarn in something, but this month it is not to be. So sadly, I will not have a NaKniSweMo sweater for myself because the sample will be going back to Zen Yarn Garden. So it's too bad. I've had a few days, I should say, I've had a few days to get over it. I discovered this on Saturday. I tried it on yesterday. I realized what was going on. I had a friend suggest that I rip right away so that the yarn is ready to go back to, ready to do whatever I want to do with it. But I did want to bring it here and show you and talk about how I am not infallible and I do have knitting mistakes, and sometimes that requires some ripping. So this is my NaKniSweMo Descent Pullover, and it's about to be back into 2 balls of yarn. So I decided that after that, I wanted to concentrate on some other things. I thought about whether or not I wanted to start a new project this week, something different, and I decided that I thought I would stick with the sweater that I am working on right now, and that I would go back into my whips and try and finish some things. And some of these projects were put aside because new projects came in, some of them were put aside because I ran out of yarn, various things, but I decided that I wanted this week to be a finishing week. I do not expect to finish the Zen Yarn Garden sweater. I expect to hopefully finish the body, and I plan to work on that each night, but I also plan to rotate in some of these other projects to finish. So I brought a couple of them back to show you. You've seen them before. The first is my Elfie pullover, which you have seen a lot this year because I've done more than one and because this project just keeps getting put back to the side. But this week is going to be the week. So I am knitting the Elfie pullover by Astrid, or the Elfie sweater by Astrid Schramm. It's E-L-F-E. It is a fingering weight sweater written to be done in 2 colors of fingering weight yarn, and it is supposed to stripe, and as you gradually get smaller in stripes of one color, you gradually get larger in stripes of the other color, so it's kind of an interesting fade effect. It is a tee. I have knit one before for myself and I really like it, and then I just recently knit one for Zen Yarn Garden as a sample for them. That was maybe 5-6 months ago. I decided to pull out yarn from NaKniSweMo years past, and this yarn was a sweater in 2017 that I knit the entire sweater, got to the end, tried it on, hated it, and ripped it. So it is now another sweater, and I do think it's a bit poetic that I plan to finish it during NaKniSweMo 2020. So this is the Elfie sweater, and I am knitting it in Spun Right Round in the colorway The Walkers, and that is this gray with flecks of green and purple and yellow, and it was one of her Halloween colorways that I ordered ages ago, before 2017, and I really liked the speckles and I really wanted to turn it into a sweater. Now in the past I have shown you the sweater body, now I have a complete sleeve. So I had started the sleeve a while ago, and of course I am making making up the sleeves as I go along because the pattern does not call for sleeves. The pattern has you work, this is a top-down contiguous sleeve, inset sleeve, and so I had to, and it has you work until basically where you separate for the armholes, and then in the regular pattern it just has you bind off there, and it curls just a little bit, and it is just a nice tee. So I went ahead and picked up all the stitches in the round, and I started some decreasing, and I figured out pretty quickly that when I was decreasing, it was going to be too skinny for me, and I didn't like it. So I actually did what I have seen done in quite a few patterns these days, and I'm hoping that it won't be so trendy that I won't want to wear the sweater later on. I don't think so. I went ahead and did a straight sleeve. Now this is a fairly slim sleeve and close fitting sleeve anyway, but I went ahead and did a straight sleeve, and then right down at the bottom I went ahead and decreased a little bit and did my cuff. The purple for this is Kim Dye's yarn. It is her Sport Weight Tartlet Sport, and it is in the colorway Plum Struck, and I picked it because it picks up some of the very dark bits of those purples. So I went ahead and finished the sleeve off. So I have got my collar, I've got my hem in Plum Struck, and then I've got one sleeve. So this week's mission is to finish the other sleeve. I think I can do it in just a couple nights, even working along with the other sweater, and of course we're very gray this month. But I think I can finish it, and like I said, I will be pleased that 2017's sweater will be reincarnated as another sweater in 2020, even though this will not actually count for NaKniSweMo because so much of it was done beforehand. So I am not eligible for prizes in the NaKniSweMo thread anyway, so like I said, I am making lemons out of lemonade and deciding to work and finish some things. So that is my NaKniSweMo sweater, and that is not my NaKniSweMo sweater, but it is a sweater that I hope to finish in the next week. The second whip that I picked up and I hope to finish this week is one that I ran out of yarn on. This was a sweater that a shawl that I was doing for Zen Yarn Garden. This is, I believe, this is the Hope and, no, this is, shoot, no, it is. It's the Hope and Feathers shawl by Lyrical Knits, Mary Annarella. And if you remember, I was working this in two colors of Zen Yarn Garden. It was in their Nightshade fingering, which is one ply of black and the other plies of colors. It was in the colorway Peach Blossom, which are these springies. It reminds me of peas and carrots and corn, which is not the most romantic way to go about it, but I think it's really pretty. And then it's also with white. And as you know, I actually knit this one twice because I was worried about gauge and running out of yarn, and I did run out of yarn, so I now have another skein of the Peach Blossom, and so I need to finish this section here. So I believe I have about that much again to do, and then I have the final section, which will just be the plain natural. So I've got those to work on, and I hope to finish that up this week. So my plan by the time I speak to you next is to have 2 FOs and 1 sweater body finished. We can hope. If I finish those things, then I might cast on a new project. And that new project is a pattern by the name of Plume. It is by Martin Story. It is from this season's Rowan. It is the pattern on the cover here. It is kind of a little poncho knit in, I believe it's the Alpaca Classic DK, and mine, this one is in gray and a very, it's in like a charcoal gray and then kind of an oatmeal colorway, and I bought the oatmeal colorway and got kind of a navy blue. So if I finish everything this week, which I don't think I will, I might start on that one. That was a project that I did want to start. It is not a sweater. It is kind of a capelet poncho, but we shall see. So the final thing that I thought I'd talk about this week is just give you a little heads up on spinning. Unfortunately, nothing new for the shop yet. This is the prize from episode 300. This is the, it is from Spun Right Round, and it was called Drum Solo. And the winner asked if I would spin it up for them because they are not a spinner. So I did do that. It does need a bath, and then it will be going out to them. And last week I showed you a finished skein of How Ghastly, and I had someone inquire about that and also inquire about the second skein, so that is what I will be spinning up this week. So it should be a busy, crafty week. Hopefully by the time I talk to you next, I will have less oopsies and more finished items. And I guess that's about it. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are staying healthy. I see that our friends in the UK are on another lockdown. I fear that the US may be heading for that as well because our numbers for coronavirus are out of control. Please, please, please stay as safe as you can. We want you healthy and able to participate in crafts. And I hope that you have a lovely week ahead, and I wish you all the best. Until I see you again, I'll say as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.